are going to practice an activity where we are going to peer revise and edit our writing.
Hi, I am Charla Huber, and I teach English Language Arts in the 8th grade, and I have been teaching for a total of 11 years.
And when we're doing that, we're going to be working with one other person. I'm going to demonstrate here with Cameron exactly what that should look like and what you'll do today in class.
I found this year, at first, the students might not have taken it as seriously as I've noticed in years in past, haven't taken it seriously because it was such a long, drawn-out process. I used to have packets, I used to have worksheets, I used to have different places that they needed to sign off, and all of that's gone. This is so precise and so concise of a method of revising and improving writing. So I modeled at the beginning of the school year where a student and I actually were side by side, and we showed the rest of the class how little time it took, how the paper is physically between us. There were no questions from any of my students after that. Because they saw us play it out, there were zero hiccups. I think this is a foolproof method. I think this is a foolproof method for any teacher wanting to help their students improve their writing.
When it is my turn for my essay, my paper, to be revised, I'm going to put it physically between the two of us. So do you notice that it is right in the middle of us? And Cam's going to actually slide his paper off to the side, so this is our only focus. While we're revising and while we're editing this, since it's my paper, Cameron will be reading, but we are both going to be working on it. There are 3 different codes that we'll use. If I find that there's a mistake on my paper while he reads it out loud, I might draw an X and come back to it. If there is something that I think might need to be removed, I might draw an X and come back to it. If I am wondering if I should make a different change on a different area, I might circle it. And finally, if I have a question about something, in other words, while I was writing this, it didn't sound that way in my head, but now that I'm hearing somebody else read my writing, I understand that there's a question. I didn't mean it to sound that way. So class, I might write a question mark and circle that as well. The great part of this activity and this strategy is that Cam, while he's reading my writing, is actually able to help me revise too. So my hand is going to be here working on this. His hand is going to be there as well. He can stop and ask me, what did you mean there? We would write a question mark, and then we're going to proceed through quickly. The reason why and the purpose for us to use the little codes is because if I don't mark up my paper when I think of something, when he reads it, I'm not going to remember when it's all said and done. After he's finished reading my paper and we had time to make some marks, I will take this paper back. I will make some notes, a few changes. Won't take very long at all. And then I'm going to set this paper aside. Now it's our turn to revise and edit Cameron's paper. So Cameron will slide his paper right between the two of us. And I will read his essay. The purpose of that is simply so you can hear your own writing being read aloud. When you read your writing time and time again, most of the time it starts to sound the same and you're not hearing any mistakes any longer. You'll be surprised today that when somebody else reads your writing, the differences that you'll hear in what you hear whenever you read it to yourself. Go ahead.
All right. In The Giver, societal rules harm members of the Jonas community. They're always watching them and they will get in trouble.
I was a teacher who thought that peer revising ate up too much time and did not return what I wanted. What I want for my students when they peer revise is a chance to think about their writing, to reflect on their writing, and ultimately improve their writing. But there's something special that happens when a peer is aligned with another peer, and they, with integrity and with purpose, try to help each other. And so, firstly, if you create a classroom environment where students are willing to take risks and they understand appropriate ways to say, to make comments to their classmates without hurting or being derogatory, ways to praise and ways to criticize. I think that's the setup, that overall culture and environment in a classroom is somewhat necessary. The return of investment of the time that you put into this peer revising is wonderful, because it takes 5-10 minutes, and coming back, every student, every time, 100% of the time, every student changes an error, makes a correction.
So you do this, that, and period. We don't need that. So we'll go back to this. In the Giverless Society, rules harm members in Jonas's community because they won't live a happy life when they grow up, nor have feelings for someone. Therefore, they don't pick their own career or job when they're older, so they will pick it for you. Is that all together?
For? Yeah, it has to be for them. Yeah.
The dad could have picked his assignment, but he was nervous to see what it was, and he could have picked it for himself. He knew himself better than they did. So that's the page.
That's the page.
The matching of the spouses was given such a waitful consideration that sometimes an adult who applied to receive a spouse wanted mothers or
Months.
even years before a match was approved and announced. Page. And then they need to wait to get someone that they don't even know, while they can meet someone and to be with them and live happy their entire life. They would want a life that they could do anything.
Does that make sense, that one?
It sounds a little. They would want a life that they could. I think it's like that they could right there.
They would want a life that they...
I say you take could out. They would want a life that could do anything. Or they want a life.
I think that's good.
Or you could do, they want a life they could do anything.
They want a life that they could do... Yeah, I'll do it.
Take that out.
Want a life that they could do anything. Keep it like that.
Yeah.
When we get into the actual another person side by side, a couple tips I would have for that is, one, making sure that the student's mouth and ears are nearest each other. Depending on the way the classroom is set up, that could be students sitting in chairs without desks. That could be students sitting on the floor. But even if they are in desks traditionally, they can sit side by side, desks in front, seat to seat. They could also physically spin their desk so that their ear is closer to their mouth. I don't think that it's absolutely essential. It is not a make or break, but for students to recognize that even different postures and different positionings could also realize that we are doing something different here. I guess the number one point I would like to make about this style of peer revising and editing is that it takes very little time, and I encourage that, and I guess I express that to as many teachers who would listen to me.